Hello, 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 hello. Who's watching now? Alina, I just saw you like the post or like the video. It's that time of the week. I am starting a couple of minutes late today, so bear with me. Um, I always like to start the show at least to have the main screen up at 7 o'clock. I will appear on the screen any minute now, but this is the Shot at an Angle show, live here on Facebook every week, 7 p.m. GMT, and it's good to have you along as always. I hope you've had a good week, and today, and I'm going to get myself on screen. Today, I am going to be talking about introducing movement into your photography. They're those shots you get where you basically see movement. You have a blurred image of some variety. There's some blur in a photography in a photograph, and blur is synonymous with movement in photography. Even with a still image, you can get movement. This was prompted by a Reddit post which I found a couple last week actually, where they were asking how they were having a difficulty with all their photographs seem too frozen, too stationary. Before I get into that, I'm going to just briefly talk about, if you've not come across this show before, I'm William Manklow. I'm the presenter of the Shot at an Angle show. It's here every week, as I've already said, on my Facebook page at 7 p.m. GMT. It's creative. It's a little bit eclectic. Good. It's me. I've got that. I've got literally 2 minutes in and I've made a mistake already. Eclectic. It's a good record for me. It's usually within the first minute I make a stumble with my words. It's fun, and I try to make it an understanding and supportive place. If I'm not doing that, please tell me in the comments. As always, there's always a bit of fun with this. That's what I really want to encourage you is to have fun and enjoy what you do. This is predominantly talking about photography, but I share this video with the one person you think who needs to have a bit of fun in their lives today. And go and share it now if you'd like to. So today's topic, as I said, is how to introduce movement into your photography. There's also going to be a challenge at some point in this week. That was English, wasn't it? That was English. There's going to be a challenge this week, as there was last week. Something I'm introducing every week. It's just a very, very small, simple challenge. And those challenges are there to maybe begin a new habit, and habits should start small. Habits are to really start a habit, you really just need to start it small. So I'll give you a challenge, but it's going to be a very simple challenge. How did you get with last week's? Did you take a photograph every day? Don't worry if you didn't. It's just there as a suggestion. And you can probably hear my cat in the background trying to get out of the door, which is hilarious. You can tell I'm videoing this from home, can't you? So there's going to be a challenge. So wait till the end of the show, towards the end of the show for that. I'm also at the moment looking for questions from you. Actually, give me a question to discuss, to go through, and around about photography, creativity. If you've got a specific photographic question you'd like to ask it in the comments right now, and I'll look to answer it in an upcoming episode. I mean, if I get one question, you're guaranteed next week's. You're not guaranteed an answer next week. So put the question in the comments right now. You can also put where you're watching from, and I usually get all sorts of places. So not literally. Don't tell me literally, but the vague area that the rough area. Vague area. Well done, William. The rough area that you're watching from. That was a long introduction. I don't know why it was such a long introduction. But let's go on to today's topic. I mean, you can tell the graphics are really slick these days, can't you? So the topic I'm going to be touching upon today is how to introduce movement into your photography. Now, if you ever wondered or ever wanted to have your shots that have photographs, or you have seen photographs which have some form of movement in, you generally find this in the genres of sports photography. Whether that be an athlete sprinting, or a high speed. Goodness me! I have this really strange thing where I do unintentional spoonerism, where I put the the sound of the first word and mix it with the sound of the second word. It's weird. I think it's a high speed. I can't talk today. Really can't. Come on, brain, catch up. Yeah, so like sports, any sort of sports. So high speed cars, so racing cars, and you kind of see the car in focus, and then the background's out of focus. The same with the person. It's all to do pretty much with the shutter speed that the photographer has used. It's all down to shutter speed, pretty much. There is maybe a little bit of aperture involved in this, but it's all down to shutter speed. Now there's two very simple ways of introducing movement to your photography. One is via what's called a pan shot, and the other one is via a stationary shot. Now both need slightly different techniques, quite considerably different techniques actually, I should say. And I'll get myself back on the screen so you can see what I'm doing here. So the first method, now both of these methods, now I'll say straight off the bat, both of these methods rely very much on you being able to control the shutter speed on your camera. Even a lot of smartphones these days have that ability, but you want to really, to get the best results, you want to have a camera like a DSLR where you actually really can control your shutter speed. So if you've got one of those cameras and you understand how you can change the shutter speed, that's fantastic. You can put it into manual mode where you can actually change all your settings, and you can change it to the 30th of a second and make sure all your other settings around it work over or under exposing at that shutter speed. Another way of doing it is all DSLR cameras have what's known as shutter priority. So you can put it onto shutter priority, and the camera will do the rest of the work for you. It won't work in fully automatic. You need to be able to control that shutter speed. Now, ideally, the shutter speed that I would go for is 1/30th of a second. So that's 1/30. If you want to know what 1/30th is. I know it's really obvious, but I'm going to just make it really, really, really obvious how to do this. The pan shot is trickier than the stationary shot as far as technique is concerned. So you can practice this the pan shot quite easily, and the stationary shot, but you can practice both relatively easily if you find yourself a busy road. All you need is a safe place at the side of a busy road, and it's all you need with your camera, and reasonable light as well. You don't want to do this in the dark, you want to do this in reasonable light, like a lot of photography. So the pan shot. So you set your camera to a 30th of a second, whether by manual or by shutter priority, or however you can figure out how to do that. Now, a pan shot is you want to pick your subject before it passes you, and before you have it in frame. So say I'm stood at the side of a road and I've got a vehicle moving from my right to my left. What I would do is I'd actually get the camera, I'd focus on the vehicle itself, and I'd actually literally follow the vehicle along. Just pan along. This is why it's called a pan shot. You're panning with the vehicle, and as soon as you've got your composition, as soon as you've got your shot, and the best time to really do it is when the vehicle is moving past you. That is when, from your perspective, the vehicle is moving at its fastest, because when the vehicle is moving towards you, the actual speed from your vantage point is slower, because it's still approaching you. When it actually is going past you, that's when it's from your perspective, that's when it's moving the fastest. So you take the shot. Then what will happen is, because you've got a 1/30th of a second, and you're moving with the vehicle as it goes past, or with the subject, because we're using the vehicle as the subject, as it goes past, that will stay in the frame of reference, that will stay in shot, that will stay in focus. So because you're moving with it, the actual object, the car in this instance, will remain sharply in focus. But what will happen with the background is, because you're literally moving across with it, moving across with the subject, doing lots of hand gestures here, that is where the slower shutter speed will come in handy. That's when it will actually that will create the effect that the background is blurred. I could have actually had a photograph. I point to my computer here. I could have had the cat in the background. I could have had a photograph. You can tell my cat's gone a bit mad. Ignore the cat. I could have had a photograph ready because I've got several of these shots which I've taken over the years. But if you can visualize it in your head, so as you're going through this motion and taking the shot with a 1/30th of a second, the background will be nice and blurred, and in some respects it will actually make the vehicle look like the vehicle's moving much faster. That's one method. The other method is to do almost exactly the opposite and keep the camera stationary. Now ideally this would be with a tripod, but you can also use any platform that's sturdy enough to keep your camera completely steady. Do exactly the same method, and you can even slow down the shutter speed. Why I picked 1/30th, by the way, for a shutter speed for the handheld shot is anything slower than that, it really does begin to show any sort of like other movements in the camera. So when you're moving the camera like this, it's not just going to go right to left. Your hands are going to go be a bit like this, and you're going to be moving the camera that way, all different ways. So if you're you just have to concentrate on that one movement. And 1/30th is the perfect for me, the perfect shutter speed. So the stationary shot, you've got you want it on something solid, tripod ideally. You set it up in the same location, but this time you take the photograph again as the subject is passing you. But this time, because the camera is stationary, the background will be in focus, but the movement will be of the actual subject, the object. In this case, we're talking about a car, so the car would appear to be moving. So you kind of get those two ways of introducing that movement to your photography. Have a go with it, have a play around with it. It's good fun. It really can introduce a new dynamic to your photography if you're looking to do that. Go and have fun with it. Any questions, fire them at me right now. But I'm just going to go on now to the viewer question. So last week, Alina actually put a question which I kind of partially answered last week, but I just want to give a few more tips when it comes to Alina's question. So Alina asked last week during the show, do I have any tips for sunrise and sunset shots? Just a few more extra tips that I kind of add from last week's episode is to one thing is actually really useful, a really useful tool on Google. Google always gives you lots of information. Is you're actually able to find out your very hyper-local sunrise sunset time. I mean, literally just type in your location and the word sunset, and it will be the first result. So if I was to go in to Google, I can't show you the screen because I've not got it set up. This is a little bit off the cuff here. So if I said, it's Oxford sunset, and the first result comes up. So at the moment, as of Wednesday the 26th of May 2021, the sunset is at 9:07 p.m. That's what time the sun's going to set. In fact, it's 7:15 now, and it still is pretty light outside. And I can do the same for sunrise, 4:57 a.m. Now I think we know somebody who lives in Ottawa. So Ottawa sunrise. So the sunrise in Ottawa is 5:21, and the sunset is 8:39 p.m. So if armed with that information, you know the perfect time to go to do sunset photography, because the perfect time is within that half an hour each side of that. So say it's 8:30, turn up about 8 o'clock or even 15:15. That sort of half an hour to an hour around that is the perfect time to go and take sunrise and sunset photography. So if you can find that time, that's really key bit of information. The other thing is to learn how to control the exposure in your camera. That's one of the key things with sunset photography, with photography in general. But sunset photography is quite a challenge because the light is very low. sometimes be it can sometimes be relatively strong still, because it's the sun, of course. The sun is the brightest thing in the sky. So that's another thing to consider. And go with a defined idea to what you want to capture. You again, with using the exposure meter in your camera, it's either going to be, you can go for a silhouette shot, you can go for look at maybe trying to capture the sky, because the skies can be quite dramatically beautiful things at sunrise and sunset, all those type of things. That's 3 very quick tips for sunrise and sunset photography. I would like to go into a bit more detail. I mean, if you want to have a chat with me one-to-one, please get in touch with me, because this is the sort of thing that I would definitely I could definitely help you with, and would definitely like to help you with as well. I hope you're keeping up, because I'm certainly not. It's one of those I'll just share the quick anecdote. It's been one of those weeks again, where I personally go through these cycles of boom and bust, as I called them in an email today, and I'm definitely coming off the back of a bust moment, if you know what I mean. That's a funny thing to share, which moves me neatly on, and that's not a really good segue, William, is that you can actually support this work. Is it going to work? Let's have a look. Are we working? Yes, we are. So you can go to buymeacoffee.com/William Mainclow. The link is in the description, and you can actually help support this show. You can do it by supporting me on a monthly basis from £3, as little as £3 a month, to a one-off basis where you can actually just buy me one coffee or several coffees. If you do back me in any way and we meet face to face, I will definitely buy your coffee. And if you really want to, I'll buy you a cake as well, or whatever that cake is. You know, I'm pretty open to any cake myself. You know, you can bribe me with cake. You know, I really shouldn't be sharing this sort of information, because I'm sure it'll come back to me. Yeah, so that's I just want to give you that quick heads up so you can help support this channel. That money will be going towards employing other people to help me build this show up. I mean, the idea is, I'm looking for a premises to do this on a more regular basis, rather than being sat here in my own home. I've been running this show for a year now. It started on a Monday, and I started it by doing it on Facebook and Instagram. But over that year, this is the first year that I've been doing it. I've been adapting it and finding what works for myself, as far as giving you decent content, and also logistically as well. So this is now this is the format that I'm going for, and the time that I'm going for. So you can reliably go onto Facebook at 7 o'clock every week, and I'll be there every Wednesday. Which leads me nicely onto this week's challenge. Now, this week's challenge is, like I said at the start of this, is we're trying to build habits up here. Okay, that's one way to look at the challenges. They're not something that will be extraordinarily challenging, but it's a challenge for you to do nonetheless, because getting out of the habit, if you fall out of the habit of photography, it's actually quite hard to get back into quite often. And actually having habitually photographing on a regular basis can only improve your photography, and also increase your confidence in photography as well. So this week's challenge, as you can see it already on the screen there, is, I have spelled that right, haven't I? There's always a typo that creeps in though. Is to write a list of all the locations you'd like to photo in the next year. Just get yourself a piece of paper, or a pad, or an iPad, or your phone, and write a list of locations you want to photograph. And that can be a wish list if you want it to be. It can be wherever you want it to, whatever locations you can think of. Even though those locations you might not necessarily be able to get to ever. It just gives you this idea of where you would like to photograph, and then you can over the next year or so, you can slowly tick those places off, and it gives you that incentive to get out with your camera. Like I said, we're forming habits here, people. Habits. I'm now fist pumping the air and you can't see me. I told you it wasn't serious. If you came for seriousness, then you really are in trouble. Anyway, so yes, that is that's nearly the end of the show. Blimey, 23 minutes. About 2 of those minutes were right at the start. That is the end of the show. Nearly. I want to point you in the direction of one page, which is probably quite useful for you. Now, like I said, I've been doing this show for nearly it's a year, pretty much now, and they've all been on Facebook. There's been a couple of times when I've not been able to do the show for various different reasons, which I'll always tell you in advance if I'm not able to do one, so you're not hanging around and waiting for me. If you go to my Facebook page, Shot at an Angle Facebook page, and on there is actually a tab. So this is on the desktop version. It will look different on different people's PCs, and this is the back end as well. So wow, you'll see it behind the scenes. Really exciting, right? If you go to more and you go to videos, there I am, quite happily showing you what I'm doing. That's the live video at the moment. If you go and look at the videos here, there's all the videos. You can actually, every single video I've ever done on here goes right back to, so look, where do we, you can see my hair's changing length. Even back to here, and I was doing different, so this is the first one I did. So look, it's actually, so I can tell you when the first video was, and I'm really fascinated with when this was. I'm going to pause that just in case it plays, and that was, yeah, the 13th of June. We're not far off a year, so this was the first video I ever did as the Shot at an Angle show. We're not quite at a year yet, but we will be soon. Maybe I should do something for the anniversary. But yeah, you can find all the videos, all the past videos on here. Go and check them out. The link is in the description, I believe. I think I put the link in the description. Yes, I did indeed. So you can go and check that out. Did I? No, I did not. Goodness me. Facebook.com/Shot at an Angle, and just go and look at the videos. That is that. So we're on to the last part of the show, which is we're on to next week. So next week we're going to be looking at how to organise your digital photographs. This was prompted by a post in a group that I help manage, and also help. I'm a tutor for them. I've started to be a tutor for the Oxford photography group, where it actually is face-to-face workshops, which is great. The next one I'm going to be doing, I've actually put the link in the description, is I'm going to be running is a street photography photo meet, and there's also the link there which you can then go and book the tickets for that. Go and check that out. That's street photography. It's going to be the 12th of June in Oxford. We're meeting in Bond Square. But next week's show, which is going to be on the 2nd of June, so we're right at the start of the month now, almost like halfway through the year. Yeah, I'm going to be talking about how to organise your digital photos. But I think that's it. That's everything for this week's show. And as always, it seems to go in a second. There's been some very coherent pop moments to this. I'm going to quickly review it for myself. There's been some coherent moments, there's been some incoherent moments, and there's been bits in between for this charade, which is what my friend Stuart calls often refers to the podcast that we do. I just love that idea of a charade. Get myself back on the screen just for the last few seconds. Thanks very much for watching. I appreciate everybody who takes even 5 seconds to look at this screen and go, hello, I can see you, you're watching me. Thanks very much for watching. As always, this is the Shot at an Angle show. My name is William. I'm sometimes an idiot. I'm sometimes a brilliant photographer. Have a good week. That's the way to sign off, isn't it? Have a good week, and I shall see you in a week's time. I hope you have a great week, and get out with your camera.